Hello, everybody, all of you astrology lovers out there. My name is Amanda Pua Walsh. I am the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub, and today I am here live with Evolutionary Astrologer Natasha Alter. Natasha, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Amanda, and good afternoon, probably the rest of the world.
Exactly. So I have to start. While people are joining, I just have to tell a little story about Miss Natasha, who you are all going to have the pleasure of hearing from very soon. I met Natasha about 4.5 years ago. I was new on the island, and a woman that I know in New York City, so I knew her from my days in New York, she calls me up and says, "You have to have a reading with this woman. You have to have a reading." And I had never had an astrology reading before. And I didn't know what to expect, but I really trust the woman who said that I needed to have a reading. And she said, well, there's this woman, she's in Hawaii somewhere, and maybe even close to you, I don't know. But she's in Hawaii and you need to call her up, or you need to email her. So I emailed, turns out it was Natasha. I emailed Natasha and I said, I was recommended to you by a woman in New York. And she said, I need to have a reading with you. And where are you? She goes, well, I am in Puna. I am actually in Seaview, which is literally 10 minutes away from where I lived. So I had a friend in New York recommend me to Natasha, who happened to be 10 minutes away from me. So I go for my first reading. I remember what I was wearing. This just was one of those monumental moments in my life. Wasn't it that bright pink dress? I was wearing
white, something very bright.
Very bright pink dress. Anyway, so I show up and I walk in and Natasha says, would you like to have a cup of tea? So I sit, exactly. So I sit down at her dining room table and literally for the next 2 hours have my mind blown. And I remember saying to her, this is the first evidence that I have that feels indisputable that there is a God, that there is something so divine and so intelligent and so beyond my comprehension. I don't know how you could know these things about me and how you could describe my life and my inner workings the way that you did by looking at this piece of paper or, on your screen, if there isn't an intelligence behind it all. And this reading was the beginning of a friendship that has lasted for the last 4.5 years, and a friendship that is literally the seed of Astrology Hub. So none of you would be here today. We would be here together had I not had that first reading with Natasha and really just gotten to experience her essence as a human being, as an astrologer, as a woman. I mean, everything about her has just been so incredible to witness and be a part of. So I get to share that with you now. Here is Natasha. She is here with us today to talk about eclipses. So we are, we've started this conversation around eclipses. For those of you who've tuned in and joined us before, this conversation is getting really juicy, and it is really amazing that we can take this opportunity to use what's happening in the cosmos, which is always the opportunity we can take to transform our lives and to use it for positive change in our lives and hopefully in the world as well. So Natasha, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, beautiful dear Amanda, for picking up the torch, for being so receptive at the right moment and being able to actually integrate. You're amazing integrator. That reading that started the whole chain of growth and opening has led now to creation of Astrology Hub, and that we all can join and join in the community, which your Aquarius rising is calling, you too, and we're all united under these wings. So I am so blessed. I'm so blessed to all this synchronicity. And isn't it amazing how astrology can poke a hole in our, sometimes closed-minded perception of being in charge or being, just disconnected, and start the whole process of reconnecting to the divine um, uh, origins, you know, and connecting to our souls. So yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed just as you are.
Mm. Okay, so for those of you who are just joining us, I am on with Evolutionary Astrologer Natasha Alter, and we are talking eclipses. If you're there, give us a hello, give us a like, give us a heart. Every time you do that, every time we engage, we actually get to get this video spread out to more astrology lovers that are a part of our community. So give us a like or heart, and it's really awesome for us to know that you're there. That's like the part of the live that I love, because it's alive. You know, so we can have this engagement. So, all right, Natasha, so let's talk about eclipses. Tell us why eclipses matter. Why should we care? Why should we pay attention?
Well, you know, a little bit about my perspectives, especially in recent times. So my perception of the moon has been changing a lot. And so I've been doing some research around it. And from where I'm at now, I see it as the placement of the moon, I see as an intentional placement. You know, there are researchers that show that on its own, the body of the moon is kind of like strangely positioned. It should not really be there according to its size, you know, and relation to the gravitational pull. So somehow it's there mysteriously. You know, a lot of around the moon is a mystery, and it is to be uncovered in the next, you know, it's keeping to be discovered. So I view the placement as an intentional bringer of change. The way it's placed to be perfectly, as you know, taking the size of the sun is not an accident. So to me, it looks like a technology of change. You know, the precision with which the moon is placed to create those portals in our reality where massive amount of change and transformation can take place is a brilliant design. And so we are here, you know, as souls are to evolve, to gain this experience on this planet, to be exposed to a lot of challenges and a lot of lessons and a lot of changes, so that our consciousness can evolve through all of that and gain new experiences and learn how to operate in this reality and keep rising the vibration. So, you know, to me, eclipses are one of those moments where we are exposed to unpredictable, oftentimes kind of shocking, radical changes, and we are called to basically harness our mastery through our response, through our conscious response to reality, and adjust to change without fear. You know, there is a lot of potential in the way of how we respond to what is going on, and this is where our mastery and our learning and transformation comes in. You know, if you see what's really going on, you know, physically, with, you know, from our perspective, is basically the light of the sun disappears, and it's pretty spectacular phenomena. You know, the sun that we all are living by and from, the life-giving center, the life-giving source, is all of a sudden shadowed. I'm talking about solar eclipse, of course, shadowed completely in the full, in the total eclipse by the moon. So it's almost like there is a hole in the fabric, the very fabric of our reality. For a few minutes that the eclipse lasts, there is almost like an opening that happens in our Earth matrix, you know? So when there is that opening, I don't even know what's happened. Maybe like there is a bending of timelines. Maybe there are like wormholes being created. But what happens from my perspective is there is like it's like a channel that opens where the energies from perhaps other dimensions can come in, as well as the energies can go out. That's why the changes that eclipses historically have created have been massive over time and have been redirecting the destinies sometimes of collectives, you know, and of individuals on the personal level as well. So that's why they are important. That's why they are to pay attention to. And I was not, as an astrologer, you know, for a long time I wasn't, you know, I normally pay attention to more longer lasting kind of, you know, transits, progressions, or nodal kind of stories and so on, until it hit me. Actually, it was not a long time ago. It was 2013, and it was a solar eclipse on my sun. So it was a day after my birthday, and I was born on a full moon, so it automatically also opposes my moon, my natal moon. And that day, you know, the way things basically happened on its own without me even doing anything. I literally just left the house, and I happened to run into somebody who happened to mention something which completely shocked my system, and it was dealing with my personal relationship at that time. And that was a day of eclipse. Basically, I woke up, and within 2 hours, my whole world, you know, my whole reality at that moment, externally and internally, have been put under shock and overhauled. So what happened as a result is that I had to review and get in touch of the full story of my basically sun-moon opposition. And because of its placement, because of its nature, it has to do a lot with relationship with people and integrity around that relationship. So what happened is that I started looking at myself. Although it happened through somebody else acted something for me to look at my own shadow. You know, oftentimes what happens outside, especially through people, is the mirror of our own inner soul work that we have to do. You know, places that we ourselves need to clear. It's by the law of attraction, we attract that similar or that same energy or that mirror, that reflection, which will lead us back to ourselves. So I had to go through a thorough investigation and a soul search, you know, and through that process, I was literally able to clear and kind of like stop that story within myself. So that way, you know, for all of us, it became clear to me that what an opportunity it is for us to rewrite our own story around a lot of karmic, you know, conditioning that we carry, which is embodied and fixed oftentimes through our planetary positions. So it's a major opportunity. And it's also opportunity for us, depending on what happens, what planets are involved, to kind of have a glimpse into, you know, into our incarnational story. You know, evolutionary astrology deals with the trajectory of the soul, you know, where you're coming from, your past lifetimes, experiences and imprints, and your evolutionary axis and your, you know, lessons to learn and realities to integrate, new skills to integrate. So it gives that glimpse, you know, through eclipses. Whoa, that's what it is. That's what this planetary message is. That's what it contains. That's what it can reveal, and that's what it has in store. So yeah, there is a major opening for almost like a detective work for your own chart and the chart of your clients, of course.
Wow. Okay. So we actually have a suite of gifts that will help you. If you don't know where, for example, the upcoming August 21st solar eclipse is landing in your chart and what planets are involved, we do have some amazing gifts that will help you to figure that out. So if we're going to put a link in the chat so you can actually access those gifts, that by clicking on that link, you'll also get live alerts. So when we go live on Facebook, you'll get alerts sent to you, so you won't miss any of our amazing Facebook Live sessions. So Natasha, that's huge. I mean, what you just said is huge. So it's almost like the events that happen, let's say events that happen around August 21st, depending on where they fall on our chart, depending on what planets are involved, that is an indicator for us of our soul story in this incarnation. Whatever challenges, whatever shadow, whatever, there's going to be clues for us to uncover what is that we're here to transcend.
Exactly. Or they can be new realities stepping into our existence, into our circumstances, that are going to catapult a next level of evolution. It's not necessarily about the shadows, Why we're talking about the shadows? Because the sun is being shadowed. So obviously there is that association right away, and oftentimes it does bring up a lot of stuff. However, there can be most fantastic gifts and fantastic positive change literally overnight of events, which will bring you to a whole new level and reroute your whole direction. What is important, though, is it's coming to that event or any event with a clear consciousness, with a readiness to receive whatever lessons are needed. There is like an element of courage that is needed for us, and open-mindedness and open-heartedness, to embrace and be ready. Rather, the resistance only creates the response of contraction. So we are co-creating this reality. It's very important to remember when we are planning and trying to figure out, what can happen. We are like busy, trying to make a story in our minds. However, we might unknowingly be locking ourselves within the tighter frame than it can be. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I think everyone can see why you have been such an incredible influence in my life. So that whole orientation of looking at transits that are coming. I mean, you like nursed me through my Pluto square Pluto and a whole host of other like difficult transits. And this whole attitude of readiness and courage, and almost like not, I don't want to say this, lightly, like a little bit of bring it on, but because the truth is we're here to grow, we're here to evolve, and all of these things conspire for us to do that. So that you have helped me so much with that, because my initial response, which I'm sure many of you out there can relate with, would be fear. It's like, oh my God, this big transit's coming, and that's not going to be a comfortable one, and I'm scared of that. So I think this whole approaching both, transits that happen in our lives, and this eclipse is coming up in August, and the, eclipse period that will follow, because it's not like it's the eclipse, it's actually the eclipse energy that will follow for several months, some say several years, where there's this stance of readiness. And you talked about courage, and that is truly one of the benefits of us doing these live talks, of us creating a community. For those of you who don't know, we have an Astrology Eclipse portal that you can join. It's free. We're having eclipse conversations all the time, because in coming together, I find it to be much easier to hold that stance with each other of readiness of, okay, how can we bring consciousness to this? How can we treat it as an opportunity? How can we grow through it together? I mean, why not? It's so much more fun that way.
Yeah. And, remember, there is a word which comes to my mind when I think of eclipses and anything which creates that kind of like portals, this multi-dimensional openings. We got to leave space for magic. as when we try to predict, and lock the reality with ourselves to a certain outcome, we kind of narrow the width, the breadth and the vastness of what possibly can happen to us. And oftentimes it's steered by fear, because fear wants to control the reality. That's how we make sure that, the fear is kept, in check. However, eclipses are magical, just like a lot of, like, the whole universe is magical. My existence is magical, that we are a mystery, everything. So in trying to predict and play with different versions, let's always leave that space for magic, for mystery, for connecting and being guided to our highest self, which we oftentimes don't really know where it wants to take us. In the moment, it might look like not exactly what I was planning, but you know how it is, retroactively, we look back and we are grateful sometimes for the most challenging and painful moments in our lives.
Usually, I would say. Yeah.
Well, eventually.
Eventually.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
So Natasha, let's talk specifically about the Great American Eclipse that's happening August 21st. Full solar eclipse going across the entire heartland of the United States, happening at very sensitive time, very sensitive.
It's unbelievable.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
I mean, to me, it's mind-blowing. I was born in Russia, by the way. So there is a lot of kind of a friction right now being kind of exercised. I don't know where it's leading to, but it's a little bit concerning around Russia, as many of you probably know who follow a little bit the news. But anyway, to me, it's pretty amazing. It's huge, it feels huge, and it feels huge, big, because of the rarity, because it's covering the whole, like, from coast to coast, the territory of the United States. It's visible, in so many places in the mainland, but also because, of course, as many of you already know, it hits the president's chart big time. So that's why, putting those together, that's why it feels huge, which means in terms of, like, big changes to come. So, I have my little interesting story with this whole presidential drama, which happened in the last, year or so. I had certain attitude, as many of you had, towards the new president, and which was just like a response to the values which were not in alignment, and all of the phony, like, flaky, whatever mutable energy that he has, until I started looking a little bit closer into his chart, and the synastry between his chart and the chart of this country. And so when you remove your emotional or your personal attitude and have, like, this unbiased, impartial analysis of this synastry as an astrologer, you see that the chart of the United States and Trump's chart are so intertwined, it's uncanny. It's uncanny to what extent those two charts are just, like, merged together in the most intimate, powerful way. So, and they're linked through the nodes. American Mars of the country is on Trump's sun and on his North Node. I mean, right there is already, those two have a destiny together.
So if we were going to start dating, Trump and the United States.
It is like, yeah, it's a couple, it's a unit. It's literally an intimate, amazing, powerful relationship. And it's an amazing synastry where you have, like, country's moon on president's descendant. It means
tell us what that means. Translate.
I mean, it's literally like an inner marriage. It's like, it means that the president or this person who has the country's moon on feels for that country very deeply and cares for it in a very real kind of a tender way. You know, her moon, country's moon, is on his descendant. You know, he literally feels deeply for this country. He's like, he is married to it, you know. Wow. He is aching for it. He does want to protect it, moon, right? He does want to nurture it, you know. So, and it's in Aquarius. So it's like, you know, the whole collective aspiration, which was initially energized with the birth of the country, is being kind of activated in his chart. And so we can look more like country's Mercury.
Well, wait. You glossed over the Mars part. Can you explain what that means?
Okay, let me see. I just brought out the synastry through astro.com just before this talk. So let me see if I can share this screen.
Yeah, we want details. I'm inviting any of you to ask questions. We'll spend a little bit of time with Natasha asking some questions too.
Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
What I see?
We can see what you see.
Okay, so here is the United States Sibley chart. All of you Native Americans, please forgive me for my heavy Russian accent, but I think it kind of makes it even cuter.
It does make it cuter.
Here's a foreigner looking at the chart of your country, and by the way, this chart, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to be in this country is because of its original ideals. It really appealed to me. So, but let's look at the synastry here. Here is the country's chart, the inner will, and we simply have Donald Trump's planets or scattered around on the outside in the little red ellipse. So here's Donald Trump planets, for instance. Here is his sun, right? Outside, this little red dot. And it's conjunct country's Mars, right? And of course, the North Node is right there too. So, and it's in the seventh house. We literally have a partnership, a common destiny. You see, we have a team. We have a very strong, powerful relationship here going on. You know, his moon right here is just, you know, it's very close to ascendant. It's in the first house. So we have again like a symbiotic relationship. Look at the Mars, his Venus Saturn in Cancer, right on the country's Mercury. I mean, we're talking love here. You know, if there were two people, as you said, if they were a couple, if this was a chart of two couples, I would say go ahead and try it out. There is a genuine, I'm going to stop share for now, okay? Do you want me to leave it on for a little while? And anybody, you don't need an astrological software. You can just go to astro.com, pull out the synastry chart between the United States and Donald Trump, and you can study it in details for yourself. There are a lot of clues here, a lot of clues. I hope I'm not going to be receiving like hateful emails.
Well, you know, you might. I know. I remember when David Palmer, the Leo King, was actually predicting that on our panel. He was predicting that Donald Trump would win, and he received so much backlash for that. And he just kept saying, "You guys, I'm just looking at the chart. I'm just looking at the astrology. It doesn't mean anything about my feelings about him at all. Exactly. I'm just telling you, it looks like he's going to win."
Exactly. that's exactly what happened to me. I had my attitude, my knee-jerk reactions because of my programming and my, value systems, and until I started looking in an impartial way to the astrology. And
okay, this is a great question. I gotta say this because so Angie says, then why is everybody miserable? Like, if this is some, this match made in heaven sort of deal, like why is there so much turmoil and so much discomfort and so much angst happening?
Okay, that's a good question.
Yes, it is.
Actually, this is a deep question, because
yes, it is.
For that we almost need to have a separate couple of hours conversation. It's not just about Trump coming, match made in heaven, everything is fine. No, he's coming to an accumulated collective history, accumulated collective consciousness. And so his appearance trigger and activate a lot of already existing inner divisions. First of all, I don't think everybody's miserable. It's us on this side, on this, liberal, kind of democratic probably side, that we feel that things are not in alignment. Nowadays, it's interesting. Things are not exactly what they appear to be. And it's like, I know it's very muddy kind of definition, but everybody is miserable because things didn't go the way it was predicted. And the value system of the person who is so deeply intertwined with the country is triggering, pushing a lot of buttons and evoking a lot of negative and pretty much disgust in a lot of people. So this match made in heaven doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to be just nice and smooth the moment this like shiny president appears. No, what match made in heaven means that these two entities, these two consciousnesses, United States as an entity and Donald Trump as an entity, have a common destiny to bring about something, some big change. It's not necessarily mean that it's going to be a brilliant future. It's going to be a shakeup. It's meant to be, but it is a destiny. When the country was conceived, on the day it was conceived, Donald Trump was already in the picture, because the future is kind of like, it's the time is cyclical. It's kind of was already in the plan that at this moment in time, that in the 21st century, there will be a being who is going to come and put to test a lot of what this country was based on and lived through during all this period. So what I mean? It's not necessarily changes.
Totally.
Necessarily look like a peaceful solution for all of us. It's
no. I think this. Wait, real quick, and hold that thought. Can you bookmark it?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So I would have to say is this exposes our predisposition to thinking that when there's a destiny meeting, that it's going to be comfortable, or that it's going to be good. It's going to feel good. Exactly. It's actually what I've noticed in my life. I mean, like a lot of people are like looking for their twin flame or their, that one that, and my experience has been that those are actually the most uncomfortable. They actually shake it up the most. It might be like great at first, but then it like quickly turns into like a lot of change and evolution. And so I think that's what you're saying is that it's just because, he loves the country and he, wants to nurture and protect and all that, doesn't mean it's going to feel good. And it doesn't mean that any of us are going to like it. And it actually does. We don't actually know what the outcome of that will be, but we do know that it means change.
Exactly.
We do know that it's destined and on some level. So for me, there's always a little bit of like sinking into that. Like, okay, this isn't, there's nothing to fight against. Like there's nothing, if I can embrace what's happening as purposeful and use it for my own highest good and also for the highest good of those in my life as much as I can, influence,
Exactly.
then it's good. You know, it needs to happen. It's happening for a reason. It's happening for a purpose. So okay, go to your second point.
Donald Trump was born on an eclipse. This is huge part of understanding what this man is carrying in his like vibrational field. He was born on an eclipse with Uranus right there, conjunct the sun and the north node, you know, and it's mutable. He's here to bring change whether he wants it or not. You know, his energy, he's like a walking eclipse.
Oh my God.
Which means
so are you, by the way.
Well, I'm a full moon baby, so it's not an eclipse, but it is kind of like a minor eclipse, let's say.
Right. Okay. So he's a walking eclipse.
He's an eclipse baby. He's a walking eclipse. So wherever he appears, whatever he does, first of all, he's led or driven by some kind of destiny to fulfill, which is not even in his control. Eclipse, right? And whatever he does, wherever he is, things are meant to change. With Uranus present on that north node and sun, it's like unpredictable, kind of like dramatic changes. So, you know, we already have an ecliptic president coming to a monumental moment of eclipse over the whole country, on the country's moon, on his ascendant, on his Mars. You know, we have like so many variables here, which you bring them together, you're like, okay, this is a moment of truth. This is a pivotal moment.
Okay, Natasha.
Yeah.
I gotta bring this up because it's another really sensitive one. We're hitting some buttons here. So Laura says you're getting carried. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Laura says you're getting carried away later, ladies. Hitler loved Germany too.
Yes. We are getting carried away, and again, we want a president who loves the country. Would Hillary Clinton love the country? Yes. Did Obama love the country? Yes. Does Putin love his country? Yes. You know, what we're here talking is not to criticize the current president, is to try to look objectively at the synastry in order to be aware of maybe some higher plans at hand. That's what astrology can give us. I am not here to neither demonize nor aggrandize anybody. You know, I have my also perspective on United States since I've been living here, which might have been changing as well. So yes, Hitler did love his country, and so did a lot of leaders who created both positive and negative changes. You know, so again, I'm sorry if I'm pushing buttons. I'm trying just to bring astrology to cut through the emotional kind of a veil of perceiving our realities. That's where astrology can sober us up. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It can just give us, it can remove us, and it can actually help us in understanding what's going on from a different perspective, and also get ready to what might be happening, what might be coming, you know. Saying that, I'm sorry if I push buttons, that he loves the country, but that's what I see in the chart. You know what's happening, he has this Regulus, the eclipse is going to be on Regulus, on this beautiful fixed star, which I actually like a lot. And it stands for literally for, it's a royal star. It's supposedly where the royalty on this planet is coming from. You know, the royal lines, the royal bloodlines are connected to Regulus. it's the height of Leo. You know, it's a height of human leadership in its best. This is where we can shine, where anybody shines to its maximum. However, Regulus, just like Leo in general, but also the last degree of Regulus, also stands for the lust for power.
The lust for power.
The lust for power. And the desire and will for power, unlimited power. So it's a very powerful placement, and it can go both ways. You know, and we can see that in Trump, he's like, because the consciousness is not yet evolved in him to hold the highest vibration of his placement, he's exhibiting the lower qualities of otherwise very powerful placement and degrees that he carries in his chart. You know, he slips into this unconscious, unevolved, like petty expression of the archetype. And that's very sad, you know?
Well, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that if we know that, we actually know sort of the denser or less evolved expression. We also can tap into a higher conscious expression. If he can't do it,
we have to do it.
We have to do it.
We have to do it. Exactly.
I mean, this is when you say every single one of us can step up as a leader. This is what we're talking about. So I want to shift to now what we can do as individuals. So we kind of just touched on it, but from your perspective, we just like laid out a lot of information about our chart with Donald Trump, with the eclipse, with everything that's happening. So what can we do to affect the change in as positive of a way as possible?
Well, let's come back and remember the spiritual foundation that this country was born and grounded on. They are the most beautiful humanitarian principles. You know, this country was founded by people who were tapped in, actually, esoterically and spiritually, with visions of the utopian society where each human being will be free, dignified, and come to its full expression and giving equal opportunity. And that's the most beautiful foundation. So having the eclipse opposing that moon in Aquarius, where the ideals of the collective are locked in that moon of the country, it's like an opportunity to remember once again and come back to those original principles of equality, of peaceful coexistence, of inner and outer freedom, of independence, declaration of independence, you know, inner independence, outer independence, you know, equality, cooperation, collaboration, co-creation, you know, the dignity of each human life, you know, existence. All of these beautiful foundational principles are now put to test, and it's up to us to revive it within ourselves, because they are human principles. This is how we all want to live, really deep inside, and not so deep, you know. So it's up for us to reactivate it within ourselves and ask ourselves, how are we walking our talk? How are we living those principles, you know? How are we in our highest and best? You know, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's so much. It's like this is such a juicy, amazing moment and year altogether. Regulus and Leo in general, Leo Aquarius, and with Regulus involved, is about us being the best human we can be. The most dignified, the most noble, the most magnificent, open-hearted, loving, being we can be today. We don't need to wait until that moment in time in August to actually start or stepping up and embody that. We all have that Leo within. We all have that Regulus within ourselves. We all have to start today. So my message would be for all of us is to be the best we can right now and every moment in our lives. This is a high call, and this is like, of course it affects the society and the collective. Wishing, like projecting negative thoughts, for somebody to fall or be like removed, that things will come back to the way we want that would be, I'm not sure it's gonna bring us to a good scenarios. So at this moment, we gotta be in our heart and wish this country, ourselves, or our beloved the best, we can, and be that human being.
Natasha, a couple things on that. You're so amazing. I just want to say that. And I am so appreciative of your courage to tell it like it is and just put it out there the way that you see it, and people can take it or leave it. But I am so grateful because I feel the truth in what you're saying. Ram Dass, I don't know if some of you know who he is. He's a big, spiritual author, teacher, leader, beautiful man who actually lives here on Maui. But he has had a practice for I don't know how many decades of having a picture of our current president on his altar.
Wow.
And on his altar, he wishes that president the best, the love, sends the good energy, because that person's in a really important role for all of us. Yes. So, to piggyback on what you said, we all could be doing that. And it doesn't have to be as far as having his picture on your altar in your room, because I don't know how everybody would feel about that, but it could just be an energetic stance. Yeah. The other thing is, I have to say, in my own life, when I have struggled with external situations, when I've wanted it to be different, when I've wanted someone to be removed, when I've wanted someone to just be out of my life, the more I wanted that, the more I was bound to that person. Exactly. The more it's like we had these cords between us that made it so there's no chance that person was leaving my life. Number one, the only way I shifted it, and it's always a work in progress, but the most potent thing I ever did was wish for that person all the love, success, happiness, joy that I was wishing for myself.
Exactly.
So what if we all did that? I don't know, let's just play with it. We could just experiment. It's to me, it's better anyways for us in the long run. It's better for our health. It's better, all the anger and the hatred and the unforgiveness and all that only hurts us. Exactly. It only hurts us as individuals, and it hurts us collectively. So, this is like, we're in the middle of a big, huge choice point. And we've talked about this on every eclipse call that we've done so far. Yes. Are we going to choose love, or are we going to choose fear? Exactly. Period. And that doesn't have to mean anything external. You could go about your day in exactly the same way, but be making that internal decision that you're going to choose love, and how that looks for you is going to look different than it looks for me or looks for Natasha. But that is a choice. That's a choice. Absolutely. And it sounds to me like astrologically, we are being asked to make that choice. Absolutely. Either step up into a higher dimension of humanity, into the vision of humanity that the founders of this country held, or not degrade, go the other direction. So exactly. Anything else you want to add, Natasha? Because we're going way over our time. This was just way too good for me to stop. I had to keep it going. We can stop right there. My message is just let's be the best, the highest version of ourselves today, and remove, what we see outside, the division, the animosity, the polarity, the fights, and the
manipulations, and you just like it's a lot of it is within ourselves, you know.
Oh yeah.
Whether we wanted to admit it or not. So we got to look within, and it's with us starting to clear our inner field that adds to the collective field, you know. Let's not contribute to division. Let's not contribute to fight. Let's not contribute to ill-intended kind of thoughts. And that's where we all meet, in the heart, Regulus and Leo, in the heart.
It makes me cry. Natasha, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for putting yourself out on a limb and asking the tough questions. That is what makes this dialogue, this conversation between us real. So thank you for expressing your truth or your questions or your inner conflict over this. And let's just do more of that, because we can really work through this together. And I really see this being beneficial for us as individuals and for the collective. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you want to tune into more of these conversations, click the link. We're putting a link in the chat. That link will give you access to live alerts. So when we go live, you'll get an alert, you'll know. We also, of course, keep the recordings up, but if you want to have those live alerts, click that link. It's also going to give you some other awesome options for some gifts that we've created. I mentioned a few earlier that are going to help you understand where the eclipse is influencing your chart, and questions that you can ask to facilitate transformation through this time. So that is all available for you. Just click the link, and thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Tasha. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Mwah.
Thank you, everybody.